Hi my love, so today I'm going to be doing a video. I am doing this look right here. I'll kind of just sit up close, but you'll get a more in-depth view later on in the video. It's just a warm cut crease, very smoked out like lid liner shade on the upper lid, super smoky on the bottom, and then a deep just brown like red lip. So something different. I have never done a look I think that looks quite like this. I've done very warm brown smoky eyes. I've done cut creases, I've done the winged eyeshadow shape, but I definitely have not done anything that has this type of placement, and I don't ever do a white on the lid. So that's something that I think is very unique, and I have never done it because I just don't like the way matte white looks on my eyes because I have super dry lids, and that is just a shade that really accentuates the dryness. So I think I did it in such a way that it looks okay and it doesn't accentuate the dryness of my lid. So I'm actually really happy with the way that it came out. I hope you guys are too. Sorry if I'm not super energetic in this video. I just really don't like to be up and just screaming and just super like bouncing off the walls because I do live in a dorm, so there's a lot of other people around me, and I'm just not trying to do that. But hopefully it's still exciting for you guys because you guys will get to see how I do this look. So if you would like to see how I did this and how I got to this final end look, just keep on watching. Alrighty, so I don't have my glasses on right now, so if I ever am not in focus, I apologize. Hopefully it fixes itself soon, but I will try to keep up with that. I just can't see this viewfinder thingy from where I'm sitting, even though I'm actually super close to the camera, but whatever, you know, we gotta deal with it. So I already have my eyes primed. I know they're creasing a little bit, but I'll fix that in a second. I used the BH Studio Pro Waterproof Eye Primer and the NYX eyeshadow base. This is in the skin tone one, so just the nude shade. So I'm gonna go straight into shadow now. I decided I wanted to do kind of a warmer eye look, so I'm gonna use the Naked Heat palette. I haven't used this one in a while, so I figured why not. So I think I'll start with my transition shade. So the shade that I'm gonna use, I think I'll mix these two right here, which is Sauced and Low Blow. And I'm just going to tap out this base first because you don't want to set the crease. You want it to be smooth when you go in with powder. So I'm just going to do that and then mix the two. I just go back and forth, whichever is easier for you. Sometimes like I'll layer them. I'll apply one color first and then I'll go in with the other. But I'm just going to pat it on and then blend it out. I know it looks super messy. I do want to do kind of a cat eye, so when I do decide to do that, I just drag the shadow out like really far, further than I actually want the cat eye to be, because then when I go in to clean it up, I have space to work with and I make sure that I'm able to get them even. So I have that on, and I think I'm just gonna go in, since I did apply it on a tacky base. When you do that sometimes, especially with matte shades, they'll kind of deepen up a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a reddish tone color. Oop, let me not blind you guys. It's this one right here, and it's called En Fuego. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that. And speaking of the Urban Decay palette, sorry if I don't talk too much during my tutorials actually first. I'm just one of those people, when I do my makeup, typically I'm rushing. So I'm not talking, I'm not really doing other stuff. I kind of just sit here, relax, and just do my makeup. So I'm not really used to that. I try as much as I can to do it, but realistically, I feel like I'm just one of those people who likes to sit and relax and kind of just enjoy the makeup process. I don't really like to chat and stop. I kind of just like to focus, but that's just my personal preference. But as you can see, that definitely has started to deepen it up. But I wanted to talk about the Urban Decay palette because they just discontinued the first Urban Decay Naked palette, which is so crazy to me because the Urban Decay Naked original palette was actually the one that got me started into like higher end palettes, or at least like Sephora brand makeup. And I know it's not Sephora brand, but just like the brands that are typically sold in Sephora. I know Ulta is really popular now too, and I actually prefer going to Ulta if I'm gonna be buying makeup, but Sephora was just that store. Like when I first started wearing makeup, Ulta wasn't really talked about, and really it was like you went to MAC or you went to Sephora if you wanted like higher end makeup. And it's just kind of crazy to me that that was the palette that got me started, and it's been out for how many years now? Like I feel like, trying to think when that came out, it was probably before I was even in high school, and it was one of those palettes that I didn't pick up originally because it was really expensive, and obviously I was really young at the time and I wasn't working, I don't think, yet. I might have already started working. I've been working since I was like 13 or 14, so it's definitely possible, but I think it came out before I got into that. So I want to go in with Ounce now, which is the lightest shade. I'm gonna use that as my highlight, but it's just so crazy because I feel like the makeup world since that palette came out has really changed, and it's really evolved, and we've seen, you know, palettes similar to that come out but just in a new way. I feel like neutral palettes will always be the thing. Like that's just something everybody's gonna go to when they want to have more of a classic look. A lot of people like it because it's very work friendly, it's school friendly. Even when you're doing it up like super dramatic neutral makeup, I feel like there's just this elegance to it that you don't necessarily always get with color. I don't know if that makes sense, because I definitely love color, but neutrals are just the go-to and just more natural shades. But it's so sad to see that palette go because it's such a like iconic product in the makeup world, but I definitely can't wait to see what they do after it. And I want to see the Cherry palette in person because I actually saw a few people talk about it and saw a few pictures, like promo pictures, and so far I'm not impressed. Sadly to say, I may not get it if I'm not impressed by it, because I bought the Smoky palette because I wanted to finish the collection, even though I knew that I'm not somebody who tends to go super smoky or super dark. I do add darkness, but I tend to not do like grays and blacks. I tend to do it with like darker browns, and that palette just doesn't get used the way that I would want it to, so probably gonna hold off on the Cherry palette, but we'll see. I want to see people do like looks and stuff with it first. I think I want to go just a tad bit darker, so I'm gonna go in with Ashes, which is just a very deep like plummy, I guess it's kind of a plummy purple shade. It's more of like a brown purple, but it's just the deepest shade in the palette. I don't really love black, so I didn't mind that this didn't have a black. I just feel like that type of shadow is so hard to blend out because it's so intense. Like it's such a deep, rich color that when you go in and you start trying to blend it, I feel it just makes it really difficult, and sometimes it can go muddy because it is so hard to blend. There are some that are easier than others, but I feel like the more charcoal blacks, the ones that aren't like super like pitch black, those ones are easier to blend out, but they tend to go more gray. So if you don't want that really like ashy tone or that very just cool tone and you want it to stay like a warm look, it's not gonna really work out if you use a very like charcoal black, because it's gonna go more gray. And throughout this whole process, I'm using the same brush. This is actually one that It Cosmetics sent me when I did one of their little, I forget what you call those, like contest things. It was their It Girl, I believe. And it's the number 5 smudge and all over brush. But I actually really like it because it's kind of big and fluffy. So I actually like it to blend colors in the crease. And it's actually good to do like a nose contour. For some reason my nose contour is always patchy, but this is a good brush to use. I just need to get better at doing nose contour, I feel like, because I do like the way it looks, but sometimes it just is so tricky. It can go like, if it catches in a weird spot and it doesn't blend out, it makes you look like super muddy. It kind of looks like a bruise because of the way that your nose is shaped. Obviously your face is 3D, so when you have like a really dark contour that's like on the sides of your nose, if you turn certain ways and it's not blended enough, you're gonna look like it's depressed in those areas, and not in a good way. It's just gonna look like a really random like indent. So I'm not a huge fan of nose contour for me because I just have a hard time with it, but it's actually a good brush for that if you were ever interested. So now what I'm going to do is I want to do a shimmer on the lid, but I was hoping to do something really light. So I think I'm gonna have to pull another palette. So let me go grab that really quick and I'll be right back. I think I'm gonna go with a matte shade instead because there is a look that I saw on Instagram a couple days ago. I don't remember who it was by, so I can't link off their name, but I did see it and it was a different look that had like the darkness in the crease and then along the lower lash line, but super light in the middle. So that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm just taking a little bit of my NYX HD Studio Photogenic Concealer. I'm using the shade Porcelain right now and taking it onto a concealer brush, and I'm just gonna cut the crease a little bit because I don't want it to be this low. I want to do something super light on the lid, so I want to go in and make sure that I have a very bright base. And I kind of just go in, tap it, and kind of like look up like this. I know it looks really scary and weird right now, but just because it'll help me make sure that I'm getting a crease line that is gonna be above where my eye like folds. So you want to kind of look up because that'll show you the highest point that will get touched when you look up, and then you just want to do it like slightly above that. Now that I have that on, I'm just taking a very white shade. This one is by Kat Von D, but honestly, anyone will work. And I'm going to apply this to my lid all over just to set. And I will try to keep just a tiny bit of the concealer open at the bottom just so that I can apply other colors there and that they'll stick. You don't have to do that if you don't have super dry lids like me. For me, I have to leave just a tiny bit of concealer, otherwise shadow just doesn't build on top of each other on my eyelids, but it's okay. We can get it to work. I'm actually going to take a black liner and I'm going to create kind of a wing shape, but I don't need it to be perfect. I just want it to be thicker on the outside and just kind of thin out as we get towards the inner portion of our tear duct. I'm going to take the other end of the smudging and all over brush by It Cosmetics because it has a flat kind of dense end, and I'm just going to just smooth out this liner. I'm not necessarily smoking it out, I just want to smooth it out, and I'm gonna pull it up into the crease shade. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a bit of the dark purple called Ashes again that we used in the crease, and I'm just going to set this down on top of that black base. And the reason I do this one first is because I find sometimes the color can look a little bit gray if I go in with too light of a color and then try to add the darkness back on top. So I'm just going to go in straight with the darker color. And then once I have just a general idea of that, I'm gonna go in with another brush. I think I'll use a small brush like this, and I'm gonna take, I think, let's go with He Devil. This is a very like warm reddish tone, and start applying that in between the white and that dark purple. And I'm using the small brush because it'll help me buff out this edge, but also keep it more concentrated so it doesn't go too far up into the white. Now that I have this eye pretty much good as far as the upper lash line, I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the other eye, and then I'm gonna do my base off camera just so that this isn't super long, and I'll come back to show you guys what I did for the rest of the eyes and then what I did on the cheeks and lips. So I'm looking a little bit crazy right now. I do want to go ahead and do my lips first just because, I don't know, I've been kind of just going back and forth between doing my eyes, my face, my lips, my cheeks, just kind of trying to keep the flow going. So I'm just going to go in and align my lips. I'm using the Wet n Wild lip liner in Chestnut, which is just a matte kind of warm brown. I would say it's like a medium to medium dark. And I'm just going to align it kind of haphazardly. I'm not super specific, I just kind of want to get a base color. So now I'm going to go in with the Rimmel Stay Matte Liquid Lip shade in Scandalous, and it's just a deep kind of warm brown, and I'm just going to apply this all over my lip. We're gonna hope that my camera doesn't die, and we're just gonna see how it goes. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with my bronzer. Right now I'm gonna take my fluffy brush. I typically use this for, actually, you know what, I'm not gonna take this. I'm gonna take my stiffer brush because I want to use that to help buff out my contour. And if you already have like dark color on it already and you try to buff it out, sometimes it can get kind of crazy. So I'm gonna go in with a more defined brush first. I think I want to go a little bit warmer, so I'm gonna mix these two. This one has a bit of a shimmer, this one has a more warm like matte tone, and mixed together I'm gonna get that like golden shimmer bronze and that warm tone. And I'm just going to apply this to my cheeks the way that I normally do. I feel like I've been really good lately at getting a softer contour because I've been really tapping off all the excess of the product before I go in and try to blend it onto my cheek, which actually really does help. Like, you don't know how much that actually does help you get more of a diffused look until you start doing it. Because I was always one of those people that I felt like, why would I go in, like, really load up the brush and then tap it off and then apply? Because like I felt like I was just getting rid of a lot of product and just wasting product by doing that. But it honestly gives you a more diffused look, so definitely is worth trying. If you're like me and you just felt like it was wasting product, like, try it out. It definitely is something that I feel like changed up my makeup routine. So it's worth checking out is all I'm trying to say. I'm just going to kind of bake a little bit underneath it because sometimes I go a little bit lower than I would like. So baking just kind of helps pick it back up, if that makes sense. And what I've realized also with baking is you gotta make sure you drag the bake down, because I was just doing the line and leaving like just emptiness right here. And what I found was that you end up with a stripe that is really hard to like blend, because you're just gonna have like a stripe of lightness and then your skin tone, or well, foundation tone, and then the bronzer. So it looks like 3 different tones instead of being your skin tone with some bronze, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to do this to the other side as well, and to my forehead. For blush, even though I have super warm like colors on my face, I do want to go in with something that's a little bit more like a warm rose tone rather than a very like orangey tone. So I'm going to take this one. This is by City Color. It's just one of their blush quads. And the reason I want to use something that's more like pinky and rosier is because everything else is very like orangey and just warm and like rustic toned. And I feel like when you do too much of that, even though it's nice because it's monochromatic, it just makes your face pull very like orange. So I like to add a tiny bit of rosiness or pink back into the cheeks, and I've just been applying this mainly to the back of my cheeks. cheekbones. I found that it helps me not look as round-faced as I am. It just kind of helps keep things lifted when you do it this way. And it doesn't really matter what brush you use, you just want to use something really fluffy. So we're kind of at this moment here. So now that I have that, I can go ahead and do my lower lashes. So I'm going to take a bit of a base. Oops, that's the wrong side. And I'm using a black pencil. This one's by Essence, but anything works. This one's a just like smoky kohl pencil. So it's not going to set down unless you set it with shadow, which I'm going to do. But basically, I do it really, really messy like this. And then you can go in with a brush. I'm just going to use the sponge. And you just want to smooth it out. We're not blending, we're just smoothing. Now that I have that on, I can go and apply a little bit of shadow. The reason I say we're not blending, we're smoothing, is because when you blend, you're going to really pull it down. And I don't want the black to be pulled down. I want it to be smoked out into something a little bit lighter, just so that it creates a better gradient. So what you do is you smooth out the product so that there's no gaps, there's no skin peeking through underneath. But then you go in with a brown shadow, and that's what's going to help get you the smoky effect. So I'm first going to take a dark color. We're using Ashes again. And just starting to connect it. Tap first so you don't get like powder poofing up into your eye, because I always forget to do this when I'm doing my makeup, especially like when I'm in a rush, I forget. And then when you just go in and start buffing, it will like flick powder up because it's not like laid down. And that is not the nicest feeling. So now I have that. You can go ahead, and I'm going to take that small fluffy brush that I used to do my highlight on my lid. I'm just going to kind of wipe it off a tiny bit. Oh my goodness, hopefully you don't hear the people screaming. But I'm going to take Low Blow again, which is just that warm, kind of like medium to light shade. And I'm going to pack it on the edge around where I have that black and that dark purple. And then once I have all of that and there's not a lot of product on the brush, I'm going to buff it. And that's going to give you that smoky look. So I already applied a little bit into my inner tear duct because I wasn't sure if I wanted to go more peachy or more white. But I am going to take this shade right here in that same NYX palette and apply that to my inner tear duct, and that's just going to highlight that. I always do that because I have a lot of darkness right here, which tends to not look the best if you leave it just by itself. So went in like that. Now I'm going to take a bit of water or setting spray. It really doesn't matter. You just want to do a light spritz. You don't want it to be where you're like trying to set the makeup. You just want to add a little bit of moisture. And then before it completely dries, you want it to dry enough that you don't have water on top of your skin. But you do want it to be slightly damp. And then just take your highlight and apply that to the highest points of your cheeks. And I might mix in, because this is looking not as intense as I want it. I'm just going to take a touch of this deeper white or brighter white shade. Just like that. Alrighty, so I'm going to apply a little bit of this to my nose and my chin, and then I'm just going to finish up the other side of my face, pop on some mascara and lashes, and I'll be right back to show you guys the final look. Alrighty, my love, so I've done this outro so many times. We're gonna hope that this is the last one that I have to do. Again, I am so bad at wanting to get everything set in one shot instead of doing jump cuts, so I end up having to redo the whole thing when something goes wrong. So I'm just gonna try and get this done with simple, easy. We're gonna do it concise, hopefully, but this is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I popped on some lashes. They're a little bit more like a spiky type lash. I have been really liking them, and I do like the way that they look with this eye because I feel like it gives it more of an edgy vibe. You could do something super wispy as well. I think a lot of different lash styles would work for this. That's why I didn't really like show you guys. Also, I don't exactly know what brand these are from. I don't have the package anymore, and I picked them up from like a local dollar store, so I actually am not sure where they're from or where you could get them, but just any spiky lashes would work. Other than that, I have nothing else to say other than if you wanted to substitute the lip for more of a nude, like I know this is a nude, but it's like a deeper nude, but if you wanted to do something that's like a little bit paler, a little bit more beige, you can do that as well. It won't be as intense with everything going on, but I do like the monochromatic look, so that's why I did the darker nude. But just in case you find that this is too much makeup for you, you can go ahead and pop on more of like a sheer gloss or a My Lips But Better color. Just so you guys are aware, I know you probably already knew that, but just in case, just so you guys have that information. Other than that, I did want to mention the last little snippet is about my Ebates link. I recently signed up for Ebates. I don't get paid, promoted, or anything to do this, but I saw on their website that when you refer somebody, that I believe you and them get a cashback bonus. So if you wanted to use my link so that you could get a starter cashback and that helped me out with getting some cashback as well, you can use my link. I put that in the description bar. I never really tried this before, so this is really new to me. Again, I'm not paid or promoted to do it. It's just something that's fun, and if you were interested in signing up anyway, it kind of helps us both out. You get a little bit of something, and then I get a little bit of a cashback as well. So just so you know, it's there if you wanted to use it, but you don't have to. I don't want to feel like I'm pushing anything on you guys. But that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any requests, leave them down below. Other than that, I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, everybody.